This is serious business. We want to pass.
I want to pass.
So here is what we're going to do. We're just going to start right in and crank right through them. Alright, so we are on exam review 2, which you will notice the problems are similar to exam review 1, which means what? They are the same as are on the exam.
Yeah.
Okay, sooner or later we're going to catch on to that phenomenon. Here we go. Find all of the asymptotes. So that will mean vertical and horizontal. So what am I going to do?
You factor out the bottom.
I factor out the bottom. Very good, Maddie. And Maddie, how does the bottom factor?
X plus 1, X plus 5.
Perfect. What does that tell me? My vertical asymptotes are where x equals -1 and x equals -5. To my horizontal asymptote, I'm supposed to draw in a box, right? What do you notice? Look right here. What do you notice?
It's a 0.
There's no x squared up there on the top. So when I box them in, my horizontal asymptote is y equals 0. Right? Okay. Find the remainder. This one is tricky. I tricked you on your test. I'm promising you. Some of you are going to get tricked on the exam. What do you have to pay attention to?
Look at the bottom.
We're on number 2.
Oh. Okay.
There's no x to the 4th.
There's no x to the 4th. When you have a missing power, you have to put in 0. Guys, you have to put in 0 when a power is missing. What goes in the box in this problem? 2. If you were putting a dot on the number line and you saw this right here, where would the dot go? 2. Where the dot goes is what the box is. They're exactly the same. Anytime you put a number in or take a number out of a parentheses, it becomes the opposite. So there's 2. All right, so here we go. I got 47 as my remainder, but I'm not going to swear by that because I did it kind of fast. I think it's right though. Do you think it's right?
Yes.
Everybody okay with that? You all know how to synthetically divide. That's easy. You just got to make sure you pay attention to the zeros. Okay. Y-intercept. No matter what the equation looks like, and there's 2 of them here. No matter what the equation looks like, how do we find our Y-intercept?
Plug in 1 for the x.
Plug in what?
0.
0. Plug in 0 for the x. So anytime you're looking for a Y-intercept, you have to let x be 0, right? So I'm going to put a 0 right here. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So this is 80 over 1 plus 4 times 1. So my denominator will be 5. So I have 80 over 5, which is 16. So your Y-intercept is 16. Girls, I'm on this board exclusively, so if you're going to move over here, you can. It's up to you. But because of the video, I'm going to be on this board. All right, now, same thing. This is exactly the same problem. If you are finding a Y-intercept, no matter what, you're going to let x be 0. So it looks like this answer turns out to be 3. The Y-intercept is 3. Okay. Now we are ready for our absolute value problem. go. What do we do?
Add 3.
You gotta add the 3 to the other side. No matter how you choose to do the problem, and you have different ways of doing it, that has to happen first. You have to get the absolute value by itself. Okay? Then what?
2x minus 4 equals 9. 2x minus 4 equals negative 9.
Alright, this is the way Sam likes to do it, and it's perfectly okay. So if this is the way you do your absolute values, it will work every single time. 2x minus 4 equals 9. Notice, this doesn't change. This stays the same. It equals 9 or it equals negative 9. And then you just solve these little equations. And there are your 2 answers. You're going to get 2 answers every time you do an absolute value problem. That one's on the first year algebra exam too, so let's be sure we get that right. How about this inequality? Don't make it harder than it is. Subtract 1 from everything. And then divide everything by 2. So our answer just comes out perfectly. It just comes out exactly like that. This is a multiple choice question though, so the answer might be written like this. That's the same thing, right? In interval notation. Did everybody get this one right? How do we solve it? Well, I heard somebody say factor. Factor is awesome if it factors. I don't think it does. So if it doesn't factor, we're going to use the quadratic formula. Can we use the quadratic formula for all of them?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you just want to play it safe, you can use the quadratic formula on all of them. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You will not have a calculator on this problem, so you're just going to have to do careful arithmetic. See how there are 2 negatives here?
Yes.
That's going to become a plus. I got 3 plus or minus root 29 over 2. And that's it. That's all there is to it. Think about what we've done. You can do this. This is not hard. You've got this with a little bit of study and practice. All right, number 7, find the domain. There are 2 things we have to worry about with domain. Anybody remember what those are? We just talked about them yesterday. What are the 2 things we have to worry about with domain?
Whatever they're called, inefficient factors, whatever they're called.
What?
The bad factors.
The denominator cannot be 0. So whatever is in the denominator cannot be 0. Which means x cannot be negative 7. Now, what's the other rule? Now that I've given you one, you remember what the other one is?
Can't be under that.
Whatever's under the radical must be positive, right? Greater than or equal to 0. This problem does not have a radical, so I'm not going to worry about that. This is a multiple choice question, so the answer might look like this, but it might also look like this. Everything except negative 7. That includes every number except negative 7. All right, now we got this function. And we want to find f of x minus 2. Easy. You can do this. How do we find f of x minus 2? Plug it in for the x's, right? So it's gonna be 2x minus 2 squared plus 7x minus 2 plus 1. In other words, we just take out the x's and plug in whatever they tell us. In this case, x minus 2. What's this equal?
Squared.
2x squared plus
2x.
You foil it, kids, you foil it. It's gotta be foiled.
x squared minus
X
4x
squared.
plus 4.
Minus
So x
4.
squared minus 4x plus 4. Now, I'm ancient, I do this for a living, I can foil that in my head. It's okay if you can't, just write it over to the side and foil it out. And then do the distributive and collect all of your like terms. And that will be the answer. 2x squared minus x minus 5, I think.
Yep.
And that's it, you're done. You're not doing anything with that. You're just plugging x minus 2 in and seeing what comes out. This is what comes out. All right, now we got a little composition. It says find f of g of x.
Look into the exact detail.
Yeah, this is exactly the problem that we just did. Only this time, we're going to take x plus 5 and put it in here. Does everybody see that?
Yep.
It's exactly the same problem, just written differently. So that's gonna be x plus 5 squared minus 2x plus 5 plus 3. And then we'll simplify. So again, it's a foil, 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 foil. Don't try to shortcut it. It's a foil problem.
It's 2x minus 10 plus 3.
So I got x squared
Plus 8x
plus 8x.
minus 7. I got plus 38. Oh, wait. Oh.
I'm getting plus 18. X squared plus 8x plus 18. Again, these two problems, you do them exactly the same way. Do not fret. Look at number 10. Look at the equation. What shape is it going to be?
Parabola.
A parabola. So we know that under normal circumstances, this is what a parabola looks like. But we have stuck some things into this equation, right? What does the negative out in front do? Turns it upside down. So my parabola is going to be upside down. What does the x plus 2 do?
Moves it left.
Left 2, and then the minus 1 on the end moves it down 1. So I have taken my parabola, I've moved it left 2, down 1, and it opens down. That's it. That's all you have to do.
Does it move it down because of the negative in front?
The negative 1. It opens down because of the negative in front.
Oh, okay.
Number 11, find the vertex. How do we find the vertex?
Negative b over 2a.
Yes, please put a circle around that. Negative b over 2a, we use it on a couple of different problems to find the vertex. So in our equation, negative b over 2a will be negative 1. So my vertex has an x coordinate of negative 1. Kayla squared. You have issue here? Everything okay? Alright, so we got x equals -1. Now we're gonna take that and plug it back into our equation. Try to listen to me. You gotta square first. So you're gonna put in -1 and you're gonna square it. So you're gonna get 1 times 3. So that's just gonna be 3. Right? That's 3. -6 minus 1. So what is that? -4. So your vertex is at -1, -4.
We want to see. Oh yeah. I never had one. This.
When in doubt, Sam, just say 2.
Okay.
All right, number 12.
Just whatever.
I'll write that for every X on my test.
Go ahead. What
Oh,
equation
I'm guaranteed to get at least one problem right.
would show the following transformations applied to y equals x squared? So, again, what that means, we talked about it yesterday. What that means is you have an equation like this one that we just did that started out as an x squared. But then we did stuff to it, put numbers in it that made it different. So now you're just writing the equation. So you want to shift it left 2. So what goes into the equation? X plus 2. So you know you're going to have x plus 2 squared. Why is it squared? Because this is the squared function. This is the quadratic function. Okay? Now, a vertical, this is identical to what we did yesterday, a vertical stretch by 3. That puts a 3 out in front. The number you put out in front stretches it or shrinks it. If it's a number bigger than 1, it stretches it. If it's a number less than 1, it shrinks it. And then we want a vertical shift down. So -1 on these. That's it. All right, so I want you to look at your problem here. Your graph. That's not perfect, but it's close enough. And I want to know on what intervals the function is decreasing. So what does decreasing mean? Down, going down. So when I start drawing, it looks to me like it's decreasing to here. And then it looks like it's decreasing here. So the intervals on which it is decreasing are from here to here. So -3 to -1, that's the x's left to right. Those are that's one of the intervals that I'm decreasing. Or I'm decreasing from 1 until 4. That's where my pencil is going down. Yep, that's how we write it. It says, what are the intervals? Those are the intervals. Now, 14 is one that we talked about today because it includes that different way of asking the question. So we want to make sure we're clear on it. We've got this function, and you want to know what are the X-intercepts. The X-intercepts are the points that if you were going to graph this, what points would you put on your x-axis? Look at that equation. What points would you have? You have -1 and +3. Question says, find the x-intercepts. Right there. Those are the x-intercepts. Okay? Now, at what point does the curve just touch the x-axis? And what was the word? That's right here. What was the word that was in today's sheet? It didn't say bounce off, it didn't say just touch, it said it is tangent. So all those things mean the same thing. So if it says tangent, if it just says bounce, if it just says just touch, that happens at -1, 0. That's the point. And how do we know that's the point where it happens? Because that one is squared. Find the inverse. How do we find the inverse?
Switch the X and Y.
Switch the X and Y and solve for Y. And we're not going to be confused if the answer includes function notation. That's the way it's supposed to look like. So that would be the way probably that answer will be written. That's a multiple choice question. Remember, if they're crossed out, we can't do them.
Does that mean it's not on it?
Yes. All right. Sketch this curve. Okay? Sketch this curve.
You factor it first.
So Maddie says factor it first. Maddie, how does this factor?
Square root or x squared minus 9.
Take out an X.
Look how that-
And Maddie, that leaves me with X squared minus 9. I think that may be what you were saying.
My
Yes.
mind.
It's okay. We're gonna take out an X, and that leaves us with X squared minus 9. And what about X squared minus 9? It is X plus 3, X minus 3, right?
Yes.
Now we're gonna sketch that. So here we go. How do I start? What do I do first? Plot my X-intercepts, and they would be at 0, -3, and +3, right? My X-intercepts, when the question says, what are the X-intercepts, you go straight to the parentheses. Those are the X-intercepts. We call them dots on the number line. Anything gonna bounce or be tangent in this problem? No, it's a cubic, so it's gonna start down here. Mrs. Ford, how do you know? Because that's what cubes do.
Okay.
We're supposed to know that.
Thanks.
Simplify. I feel like we just did these.
Because we did.
Yeah. What do I do here?
Distribute.
Foil, distribute, whatever you want to call it, that's right. So first, outsides, insides, and last. And what do I have to remember? What little
-1.
detail? I squared is -1. So this right here is going to become plus 12. Which will add to the 10 and give me a 22.
-7.
And these are -7i. And that's it. That's all there is to it. All right. What property? Now be very, very careful. Look at this carefully. Remember, there's only one property on your exam. There's one right here. What property is that?
Associative.
It's commutative. Look at it carefully. Look at it carefully. What changed? Did the grouping change? No, the grouping did not change. U and V are grouped. What changed was the order of the U and V. And order is commutative. So if you have changed the order, you are commutative. Okay?
So that's property.
Yep.
Commutative property.
Addition.
multiple choice, you can take a wild guess, but I prefer you know your properties. All right, how about this guy? Notice as I'm copying it down, to save time, I am just copying it down in factored form. Did you catch that? I factored that denominator.
Yeah.
You need to factor that denominator. Now what?
Multiply by
X.
What am I gonna multiply
and X
by?
minus 2.
X plus 1, X minus 2, X plus 1, X minus 2, X plus 1, X minus 2. If you actually write that down, and then physically cancel, you cannot miss this problem. The X plus 1 gone away, leaving me with what? X squared minus 2x plus, now this is going to go away
3x plus 3
and leave me with 3x plus 3
plus
equal to, the whole shebang is gone and I am left with just 5. So this is going to be x squared plus x minus 2. You see what I did? I added those together, and then I moved the 5 over here.
And factors.
It's a quadratic, so if you can see how it factors, it's a pretty easy one. Go ahead and factor it. If you can't see how it factors, then you're going to use the quadratic formula. I'll go ahead and factor it. So x equals negative 2 or x equals 1. Beep, 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 beep.
Uh-oh.
Do I have any extraneous? Actually, I don't. So these are all okay. Because the only way you can get extraneous is if you put them in and get a 0 in the bottom, right? And those aren't giving you zeros in the bottom. This will be a multiple choice question, so I can probably see it. All right, here we go. Now we got a big one. Oh, by the way, these I didn't put stars by. This one, notice when we get to problem 23, see how it says calculator? So now all these problems we're getting ready to do here, we'll have a calculator to help us with it. So 3x cubed minus 3x squared plus 27x minus 27. List the possible rational roots. We do not need a calculator to list the possible rational roots. The possible rational roots are factors of 27, 27, 9, 3, and 1. Is that it?
yes.
Over factors of 3. Now,
1/3.
that means, forget the 3 for a minute, that means you have all of those. So we have plus or minus 27, 9, 3, and 1, right? But now we got to put them all over 3. So 27 over 3, already got it. 9 over 3, already got it. 3 over 3, got it. 1 over 3, need to add it to my list. So all of the factors of 27 over 1, and then all of the factors of 27 over 3.
It's a lot of factors.
Find the solutions algebraically. So that means that's the way we've been doing it. So how do we want to find the solutions? You got a couple of options. One option is it does factor by grouping. You could also do synthetic division. But Sam, if you were going to do synthetic division, you would not pick 2. Because guess what? 2 is not gonna work in this problem because it is not a PRR,
Never mind.
okay?
Oh, to 27.
Never mind, just factor by grouping, there's no point then.
It does factor by grouping.
Just factor by grouping, there's no
Thank you,
point.
Sam, I will.
There's no
You may factor by grouping, or you can use synthetic division using any of these numbers. So, if I factor by grouping, what comes out of the first two?
3x squared.
3x squared. What am I left with?
X minus 1.
X minus 1. X minus 1. If you take out a 3x squared, you're left with x minus 1. Plus, what comes out here?
27.
27, and again, you're left with x minus 1, which is a very good thing, because factoring by grouping means they have to match. So I have my x minus 1, and then I have 3x squared plus 27. Alright, so, oh boy. I think I can take out a 3, but that does not factor, does it? Because it's a plus. So, either x minus 1 equals 0, or x squared plus 9 equals 0. I am finding the solutions. I have to come up with x equals. So I'm going to set my factors equal to 0. So x equals 1,
Yes.
or x squared equals negative 9, which means x equals plus or minus 3i. The square root of 9 is 3, the square root of negative is I. Plus or minus 3i. All right, 27. I know it seems like we're leaving out a lot, but remember we have that whole extra page that we'll do when we get there, the add-in problems. All right, so 27. Write the equation of the line through these 2 points. Remember, this is the one no one is missing because it will be embarrassing.
Y minus y over x minus x.
I gotta find the slope, that's right. So first I'll just do 8 minus 6 over 4 minus 5. 8 minus 6, 4 minus 5.
Negative 2.
Which gives me 2 over negative 1 or negative 2. Now what? So y minus, pick a point, I'll do this one, doesn't matter, pick one. Y minus 6 equals negative 2, x minus 5. So y minus 6 equals negative 2x plus 10. I'm being very careful with my arithmetic.
Add the 6 over.
So y equals negative 2x plus 16.
Yay.
Sure.
This one, you picked 5 and 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if I pick 4?
You get the same answer. Looks a little different, but you get the same answer. I don't know, because it would be y minus 8 equals negative 2, x minus 4. So y minus 8 equals negative 2x plus 8.
Yeah, I put the 2 with negative 2 and the x together already.
Okay, here we go. We are going to the store and we're buying something that costs $83.20. There is a 20% discount and a 7% tax. Nice of you to show up. We're on problem 28. Okay.
It will.
What do we multiply by if there is a 20% discount? 0.8. Remember, we are not multiplying ever by these percentages. it's 1 minus or 1 plus. So this one's gonna be 1.07 because it's 1 plus 7%. Then we just take our trusty calculator,
I got it.
type it all in.
Which one?
71.22.
Yep, $71.22. We're rounding off to the nearest cent because that's what we do with money.
So 1.0 minus 0.2. Because you're moving the decimal over. Yeah. There we go. It's whatever.
All right, we're not missing this one either. We've done too many of these. We are not missing them ever again. We know that we got a whole bunch of numbers in the problem. We're gonna fill in all these blanks except for one. When I am done filling everything in, there's gonna be one parenthesis that's open. It's either going to be right here, it's gonna be this amount, or it's gonna be right here, this amount. If it's this one, it's number minus X. If it's this one, it's number plus X.
Yeah.
Period. So now I'm gonna fill them in and see what the blank is. How many gallons of an 8%, and please be careful, 0.08, should be added to 100 gallons of a 90% solution to get a 65% solution? See? There's a parentheses, right? It's right where we knew it would be, in one of those two spots. This is going to be 100 minus X.
Oh.
Or plus X, I'm sorry. 100 plus X.
Use us.
That's 100 plus X. I have it written right here. 100 plus X. I'm glad you were looking at me strangely. Good job. So now we're going to work it out. And you have a calculator to help you with all your arithmetic. So type away. You have a calculator, should not be a problem for you. So I ended up
43.86.
with, if I did my math right, I got 43.86, is it gallons?
Yes. Yeah.
So 23.86 gallons, 43.86 gallons as my answer. All right, now we have another one of these big exponent things.
Does it come with 2 or just
All right, here we go. Lots of ways to start. How do we begin?
You can just do here.
So one thing we can do, if we want to start this way, I think E period did a little differently today, but that's fine. But one thing you can do is start by squaring everything. So that would be 16 x to the 10th y to the negative 4th z squared over 9 x to the negative 6th y to the 14th z to the negative 14th. Remember, when you raise a power to a power, you multiply the exponents. So x to the 5th to the 2nd is x to the 10th. So that's step 1. Now what needs to be done? Now we can start moving things around, right? So, see this guy right here?
Yeah.
He has to go up. Now, you're taking 6 X's to the top, but there's already 10 up there. So now we're going to have X to the 16. Now, see that guy right there? He's coming down. So you are bringing down 4 Y's. But there are already 14 of them down there. So that's going to give you Y to the 18. And then see this guy right here? He has to go up. So there's already 2 Z's up here. You're bringing up 14 more. So now we're going to have Z to the 16. And there is our final answer. Now we got the box problem. So I didn't draw the picture. It will be drawn on your exam. I didn't draw it because it's too much. All right, so here are all of the questions. Okay, the drill is, you know, we got this piece of paper. We're cutting out corners all around, right? And we want to know what the volume of the box is. So what's your equation for the volume of the box?
20 minus 2x.
20 minus 2x.
16 minus 2x.
16 minus
And
2x. X. It's 20 minus 2x, 16 minus 2x, and x. Because x is the height of the box. If you fold up those flaps, x is how big it is, how tall it is. So that is the volume. 20 minus 2x, 16 minus 2x times x. Right? Now what about domain? The next question is domain. So x has to be between 0 and 8. Maddie says correctly. How did she get 0 and 8? It's always 0 for the minimum. X cannot be negative, so it's always 0 for the minimum. And then where did the 8 come from? Half the smallest dimension. Half the smallest dimension. Now, at this point, you're ready to graph this thing. So when I graph it, remember, this is the picture I want to see. In order to do that, I got to set up a window that's appropriate to the problem. So X-min and X-max are already determined. They're right here. X-min is 0, X-max is 8. Y-min is already determined. It's 0. Y-max is a total and complete guess on your part. And it's a good guess if you see that picture. If you see something that looks like this, it means you have to guess bigger. So, who found a number that would be a good guess?
500.
500, he says. Are there other numbers that would be okay?
Yes.
There are lots of them, Anthony. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But apparently 500 works. So I am going to type in this equation. Those of you that typed in earlier today, you got to put in a new equation, kids. We're doing a new problem. So you're putting in a new equation, you're putting in a new window. You're hitting graph, and it does work.
750 works.
So this window will work, but there are this could be, anything bigger than 500 would be great too. Can't be much
I did
less than
750.
500. 750 would be good, yeah. But 500 is fine. I see a beautiful picture. All right, so then second count, down to maximum. Move your cursor so it's over here. Then move your cursor so it's over here. And move it in between those two marks. And I got 2.94, comma, 420.11. Now remember, every time you do this, you are going to get two numbers. You're going to get a point like this every time. This right here is your X value, which represents the size of the corners. This is your Y value, which represents the volume. So when you answer the question, make sure you're using the right number. What size corners? So that would be 2.94 inches. That's the size of the corners that we are cutting out. Now on the back side, we have our add-in problems. These replace the ones I crossed out. And on this page, if there's no star next to it, you have to be able to do it without a calculator. So if there's no star, we cannot use our calculator at all. So, change 11 pi over 9 into degrees. Easy, that's right. This is 180. Now, if I don't have a calculator, I'm going to think of that as 180. Then I'm going to divide by 9 and get 20. And then I am going to multiply by 11. So 20 times 11, 220. So the answer is 220. 180 divided by 9 times 11. That, I mean, some of these questions you should just fly through. That's one. All right, now we have a calculator problem. Find the angle of depression. All right, here's the picture. Here's the thing I'm looking for. A man is looking out of a window. Here's the man looking out of the window 52 feet above the ground at an object that is 140 feet from him.
Will that be the hypotenuse?
That would be the hypotenuse, because this is the man and this is the object, right? So that's 140. Now this is a calculator problem, but before you go to the calculator, you have to be able to write an equation.
What do we do?
Your equation is going to be sine, cosine, or tangent.
What do we negative?
It's going to be sine, because this is opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite over hypotenuse. So sine x, it's always sine angle. So sine x equals 52 over 140. Right? How do I solve that? I use my special button. This is going to be second sine 52 1/40. Remember, you have a calculator. There's no problem. You just got to know which buttons to press. We talked about this a lot. I got 21.8 degrees.
That's what I got.
We talked about this a lot, kids. When do you use this button? When you're looking for the angle. So as soon as I put the X right there, I knew at some point I was going to need to use this button. All right, now 3, if I had my calculator, I'd use that button, but I don't have my calculator. I have to do number 3 all by myself. So I want you to think about a triangle, a situation where the cosine, which I heard somebody over here say adjacent over hypotenuse, is 1 over root 2. And then, since you don't have a calculator, you should recognize that.
45.
That's a 45-degree angle. So the answer to the question is 45 degrees. You're looking for an angle, just like you were doing here, but you don't have a calculator. All right, now we're going to sketch. And remember, you got to label stuff. All right, so first of all, look at that shape. Is that the right shape?
Yeah.
It's a negative
Cosine.
cosine. So it starts at the bottom and bumps up. That's a negative cosine. What are these labels going to be? 3 and negative 3. Vertical labels, Maddie. 3 and negative 3. And then Maddie already has these labeled. She says 90, 180, 270, 360. Is she right?
Yes.
That's exactly what they are, because I didn't put anything in here to change them. If this had been a 2 here, if there had been like a 2 there, then you would divide all of these by 2. But there wasn't, so we stick with the original labels. All right, sine 5 pi over 6, no calculator. Sine 5 pi over 6.
60 degrees.
So let's do what we did before. What's pi? Divided by 6
30,
times 5.
150.
So I'm going to find the sine of 150. Which quadrant
3 or 2.
is 150 in?
2.
It's right here. Because this is 0, 90, and 180, right? So 150 will be somewhere between 90 and 180. This guy right here is the important angle. Look at it. Use your head. If this is 150 and this is 180, that's got to be a 30. Which means 1, 2, root 3.
Oh, negative root 3.
Negative root 3. Very good. We can't forget the negatives.
Yes.
If we are in a quadrant other than 1, something's going to be negative. Now, what do I want? I want the sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so I think the answer is 1/2. Now we're going to write the equation of this thing. So I'm going to start with 3 parentheses. Why am I starting with 3 parentheses?
3 X-intercepts.
There's 3 X-intercepts. There's 3 dots. There's 3 zeros. So each parentheses is going to represent one of those dots. So X plus 2, X minus 1,
X minus 1.
X minus 4. Everybody got that?
Yes.
Now, stop for just a second. Look carefully at the problem. Are any of those going to be squared?
Yes. X plus 2.
This one's going to be squared. Is that the only one? Yep. How do we know? That's the only bounce. Or sometimes you call that the place where it's tangent. Remember, that means the same thing. That's the only place where it bounces, or is tangent. Now, You aren't done. What's still missing? Now, how do we find that?
Plug it back in, plug one of these.
What do we plug in? The other point. Notice you're given a random point, right? It doesn't go in the parentheses because it's not on the x-axis, but it goes in for x and y here. So -4 equals n times 2 plus 2 squared times 2 minus 1 times 2 minus 4. See what I did? I put -4 in for y, and I put 2 in for all of the x's. And then that's going to allow me to find n. So here we go. -4 equals n times 2 plus 2 squared. 2 minus 1, 2 minus 4. So -4 equals n times -32. So n equals -4 over -32, which is 1/8. Right? And then I go back and I put that in right here. And that is what goes in the answer blank. And the last one, oh my gosh, the last one. The height of a ball above the ground is given by this equation. When does it reach its maximum height, and what is the maximum height? So what does the word maximum imply? Vertex. Because like Sam's back there going like this. This is a -x squared. It opens down. We're looking for that point. How do we find the vertex? Negative b over 2a. I got 1.
Yes. You're not done.
And then I'm going to plug in 1. Remember, we square first. So I got 34.
Yes, ma'am.
What does the 1 tell me? When it reaches its maximum height. So the when answer is 1 second. The height answer
34 feet.
is 34 feet.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. So we just took the entire exam in a little bit less than an hour. We are not worried. We've got this. So now what we're going to do is spend a few minutes going over. We're not going to take a break, but I'll let you go a little early so you get to the basketball game. But we're going to go over whatever problem. We just took the entire exam. So using that sheet as our reference, give me a problem number that you think you might miss. Who was the first one here? Shepherds? What do you have any that you think you might miss, or you gotta get 100? The rest of you be thinking about one you might miss, so when I call on you, you'll be ready. He's just going to get 100. He got 100 on the last test. He's just going to get 100. Because he wants to get 100. He's good. Alright, who was the second one here? Patrick, okay.
The identity problems.
Properties, you mean?
Yeah, properties.
Properties. Alright, let's run through a couple of practice properties. There's only one on the test, but I'll put down a few here. Alright, let's look at these. Let's look at these properties. There's only one on the exam, but if you know your properties, it'll be super simple. Alright, what do we got here?
Identity.
Multiplicative identity, that's exactly right. This is an identity.
So if you put just identity, what do you get?
It's a multiple choice question.
Oh, so it will say
What do we got going on here?
associative.
This is associative. This is associative. Notice, here you got the 4 and the 3, here you got the 5 and the 4. You have regrouped, reassociated. That's associative. What do we got here? Distributive. Everybody knows that one. What do we have here? Tricky? Commutative. This is commutative because we got 4 and 3, but here it's 4 and 3, and here it's 3 and 4. When the order changes, it is commutative. Okay, Pat? Got it? All right, who was the third one here? Anybody remember, or was it just
I think it was Sam.
Sam?
What?
You got a question?
No.
No?
He knows it.
You're good on everything?
What?
Good on everything?
Yeah.
Anthony?
I still don't understand the Collins one and the solutions.
Wait, how did Anthony get a problem for me?
I don't know. All right, so here we go. Brendan, you're next. All right, so here is, and do another one of these. So the question is, how much 19% solution has to be mixed with a 42% solution to get 80 quarts of 30% solution. Alright, so there's the question. How much 19% is going to be mixed with some 42% to get 80 quarts of 30%? So, one more time. We know every time we do this, either this right here is going to be empty, or this right here is going to be empty. That's where the empty ones come up every time. If it's this one, it's going to be the number minus X. If it's this one, it's going to be the number plus X. So now I'm just going to fill in and see where it is. How much 19% is going to be mixed with some 42% to get 80 quarts of 30%.
Minus number.
So it's X. No, number 80.
So this is going to be 80 minus X because of the location of the parentheses, right?
I see why now.
This is an amount, an amount, an amount. So 80 minus X. So then we can use our calculator to help us multiply. I got it. Now, be careful. These are like terms. They get added together. So 0.42 minus 0.19, I'm going to get negative 0.23x plus 33.6 equals 24.
Subtract the
So
33.
we'll subtract that. And then I'll divide. So 6 divided by 0.23. Ooh, I got 41.74 quarts.
This one's so hard. It shouldn't be.
All right, Anthony.
I just get confused.
All right, Mr. J.
Number 2.
2. Find the remainder. All we have to do to find the remainder is do synthetic division.
Yeah, that's the issue.
But what do we have to be careful of as we're doing our synthetic division?
Don't forget the 0.
That's right.
Or whatever called bad numbers.
What?
I don't know. Whatever they're called, irrational.
All right.
That's 33.
So here we go. We're going to do our synthetic division. The directions say find the remainder. So we only care about what we end up with. What's going to go in the box?
2.
This is what I'm dividing by. So in the box will go a 2 or 1. We'll go a 1. Now be careful here. I got a 3. Then I'm going to have a 0 for the 6 and a 0 for the 5. And then 9, -2, 8, 1, and -4. Any number that's missing, any power that's missing, you have to put a 0 in for. All right, so here we go. I got 15. But I'm going to wait and see if that's what any of you got because it's easy to make mistakes. Anybody else get 15? That's the remainder then. Okay, Shiloh? Well, where are we different? No, it's -2. And then 8. And then 1. No, those are all separate numbers. Okay, so Shiloh, do you have a problem you want to do?
Yes, please. One's like 30 with exponents. Like
Problem 30.
Like 31.
All right, so 30 is a simplified problem. All right. Oh, and then you guys have to
Seriously? Oh, I noticed.
Okay, so we gotta simplify this. Come on, guys, hang with us. This is all the review you get. This is it. So we need to make it good.
Oh, there's no open gym?
There is, but remember, there are lots of kids at open gym. So it's not gonna be me one-on-one with you. Unless no one else shows up. Okay, so here we go. What do you wanna do first?
Cube it.
Cube everything. Now, when you cube, that means 5 cubes and 6 cubes. Now, I've done cubes, billions of times, so I know what those are. You might, if you have something like this, you might have to work out over to the side 6 cubed and actually, work it out. Just means times it by itself 3 times. Now, this will be x to the 12th, y to the -9, and z to the 30th, because we multiply exponents. X to the -21, y to the -30, and z to the 9. Now we gotta take care of anything that's negative. So this, we got our 125 and our 216. right, now we gotta do something with this guy, cause he's negative. So he's going up. So you are taking 21 to the top. But you already have 12 up there. So you're gonna have 33 X's. Now, the Y's are a little tricky because they're both negative. Which means you're gonna have 30 of them on the top and 9 of them on the bottom. Right? They like switch places. And then if you've got 30 over 9, some of them are gonna cancel out. You're gonna have 21 on the top. Ellie, what are you doing?
I'm just answering my mom. She's making sure I was feeling okay.
Did you say, Mom, I feel great, I'm at math, how could it get any better? Alright, now what about the Z's? Nothing moves. Nothing moves. But there's 30 of them on the top and 9 on the bottom, so that's going to end up being Z to the 21st. And that is your answer. Ashley.
Can you do it like 31?
31, a box problem. Yep, one more. So we're going to build the box. And our paper is going to be, let's say, 30 by 24. And we know the questions we're going to be asked. First of all, we're going to need to write the equation for the volume. So what is our equation going to be? 30 minus 2x. 24 minus 2x.
Because there's 2 X's
And x.
there.
So 30 minus 2x, 24 minus 2x, and x. That's my equation. Now I'm going to need to write down my domain, which means x is going to be between, in this problem, Maddie says 0 and 12, and she's exactly right. Always 0, always half the smaller dimension. So now I'm going to set up my calculator so that when I press graph, I get something like that. So x min is 0, x max is 12, y min is 0, and y max, I don't know, but these are pretty big numbers. So I think this time I'm going to go with 1,000. That's my guess. I have no idea. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to put in my new equation, which is right there.
That's not even big.
Well, let me catch up. I appreciate that, Tex. I got to make sure I'm adjusting everything. And Tex is exactly right. 1,000 wasn't big enough because this is the picture I got right here. So maybe I'll make this 1,500. Remember, you get to guess. There is no single right answer. Just pick one big enough to see the top. Well, 1,500 is barely high enough.
3,000.
But no, it's fine. All I need to do is see the top. As long as I can see it, I'm good. I can see it.
6.
So, second calc, maximum. Move your cursor so it's over here somewhere and press enter. Then move it so it's over here. Press enter. And then move it so it's in between those two boundaries you just set. And I got 4.42 And 1417.87.
What would you want us to roll to?
It'll say. Now, what do I say if the question is find the maximum volume? That would be, the maximum volume would be 1417.87 cubic inches. That would be the volume. So if the question is find the maximum volume, that's it. What if it says find the size of the corner? Then it's 4.42 inches. All right? A couple more. Who got here on time? That hasn't asked a question yet. So no on-time people have a question? All right. What about? All right. So, Bria? 23. Hang on, folks. You do not want to leave yet. Trust me. 23. Alright, so this is a little harder to make up.
Two.
I just like what you like yell out in like a crowd. You're like, two.
Alright, let's try this.
You're getting stuff done that you don't.
So the first question is, list all the PRRs. So what are the PRRs? Oh gosh, there's a lot of them. Factors of 24. Please don't forget the plus or minus.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So 24, 12, 8, 6, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Oh Lord. All over 2 and 1. Now, if we, no wait, we're not done yet because it says list. So when we list these, it's 24, 12, 8, 6, 4, 3, 2, and 1, because those are what happens if you take all those numbers and put them over 1. Now you got to take all those numbers and put them over 2. Now, what's happened every time is that we get duplicates. Because when we put 24 over 2, we get 12. Then we put 12 over 2, we get 6. 8 over 2, 4. 6 over 2, 3. 4 over 2. Uh-oh. What about 3 over 2? That one in. 2 over 2 is 1, that's good. But 1 over 2 is 1/2. So there is your list. You take every one of these, put them over 1, then take every one of those and put them over 2. That's how you get your list. Then, the second part of the question says, what are the actual roots?
Factor by grouping. Thank you.
So, Pat has noticed that we can factor by grouping. If you don't want to factor by grouping, you're going to pick a number from this list and do synthetic division. But he's right. Factors by grouping. If I take a 2x squared out of the first 2, and then a -8 out of the second 2, I get the same parentheses. All right, I'm not done now. What do I still need to do?
Factor that one.
The 2.
2 will come out of that.
X squared minus 4. Yeah.
And then what about x squared minus 4?
Oh, x minus 2 and x plus 2.
And that
Yeah.
means that my answers are -3, 2, and
-2.
-2. Now, the last one we did, this is the last thing I'm going to say, the last one we did, this, because of the way I wrote the problem, this was a plus.
That one.
So what happened was, that didn't factor. But that doesn't mean you can't solve it. You can still set it equal to 0. It's the sum of squares. The sum of squares doesn't factor. Now, over the set of real numbers. Now, when I solve this, what happens? X equals plus or minus 2i. Because when I square root a negative, I have to have an I. Right? So that did happen on one of the practices. So we'll want to be on the lookout maybe for that. If it comes out as a minus, like this did originally, then it factors nicely and we'll just go from there. But if it comes out as a plus, then you're going to end up with an imaginary number, right? Okay, here's what I need everyone to do.
Is it paper?
I need you to put your name on this card. Do not leave until you have your name on that card. Huh? No, there's one card for this side of the room and one card. Put your name on that card.
Oh, geez.
And then you pass it to her and she'll put her name on that card. So